Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael. How we doing, dude?
We're doing good, man. We
As,
are we are doing good, I have to say.
as you could tell, I'm back to the normal P-Lot offices. I am not down the shore anymore, so
Not
nobody's
in
gonna
the P-Lot Shore house
the
anymore.
P-Lot Shore House. No, so it's gonna be just me today. Unfortunately, my producer, he's watching Premier League ball right now. I'm going to
Yes.
he's watching, but yeah, won't be able to help me out like he did last week. That was very, very helpful. Shout out to Zach Kovac. Zach, longtime listener of the podcast, very
hmm
good friend of mine. But yeah, man.
Yes.
So we got a lot to talk about. So in typical P-Lot fashion, we do a show, and breaking news happens like several hours after it.
Yeah, the next day. It really we do a show on a Saturday, Sunday something ridiculous happens. We do a show Sunday, something crazy Sunday afternoon happens. Monday. Yeah, we're always a day early. Um and this time around, not so good news. Definitely not so good news at all.
Right. Zach
Um,
Wheeler,
yeah,
we don't know how long he's out. He has a blood clot in his shoulder. Earlier this week, it was successfully operated on, but no
so a
one
lot
knows
of
if it's
rest and
for
recovery
a lot of
for a
rest and
blood
recovery.
clot.
No one really knows if it's part of the, does he have thoracic outlet syndrome. No one knows. We'll talk about that more later in the show. We'll kind of like to
Yeah.
not give like a eulogy for Zach Wheeler, but kind of just really talk about, I really want to talk about how good he's been. And, like this, like it's at the time I thought his career was over, like when it
hmm
happened, because he
Yep.
already planned on retiring at the end of 2027.
Right.
And if he was going to miss like a year and a half, I mean, I would imagine he probably would have he would have either retired or like, I don't like, no one knows.
hmm
So, we'll talk about Zach Wheeler later in the show. We're going to talk about Phillies. You know, I, at, I forget what day it was early this week. It was probably like around like a Wednesday. The Phillies had the same record this year as they did last year, but obviously they were in two different
Feels
spots.
a lot different. Yeah, for
Feels a
sure.
lot different. I said they were, and then I got a lot of I think I got like 200 likes on Twitter because like it was a comment on from CBS Sports's Jeff Kerr wrote like tweeted that, and I commented on it saying this feels different. And then, of
hmm
course, I had a couple of people get mad. They're like, "Oh, you call losing 204 little Nationals hot?" And and then everyone started like sub commenting that guy, basically saying like, "Dude, they have the second best record in baseball." He was like, "I never said that." I was like, you basically did, like
Yeah,
there's
and it's just
some people. I
it,
mean, to me, it's like I think everyone. I, we'll talk about that later, but I do feel like hate watching your own sports team when they're performing well. I think it's really dumb. I don't get it. I truly don't understand that at all because you watch sports to be entertained.
it's. I mean, people just want to see. Um, they just want to see the team fail. Essentially, like people want to choose to be miserable. Like going splitting a series against the division opponent is kind of always in the cards. That's never a guarantee to not. I mean, every team does it. I don't know. A lot of people just like to complain for the sake of complaining. I think I think now, honestly, with the Wheeler injury and with the way that the team has sort of responded to that, which is certainly in a positive way through the first like week or so of the injury or the news. I think people are starting to get a little back on board. I think the Duran trade helped. Well, we'll talk about the Phillies later, but um, yeah, we'll talk about that
I
later.
do I do want to talk football. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the big news coming out of the NFL this week. The I want to say that this is. Should we call it like the I don't want to say like the death of the Dallas Cowboys, because that's a little extreme. I want to
Mm-hmm.
say that Jerry Jones has, I don't know, every time he opens his mouth, it just gets worse. Things just get worse. Like there's an old saying that goes, it's better, if you don't want people to think you're stupid, it's better to keep your mouth shut than to open it and remove all doubt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We all, Jerry Jones, turns out he was battling cancer for the last 10 years. No one knew about it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No one knew about it. And he was making all these decisions for the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if there's a situation that should necessitate Jerry just having someone else run the Dallas Cowboys, it is this Micah Parsons this contract negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Michael, where do we start? This has been kind of going on. So Micah Parsons recently scrubbed all of his Cowboys content from social media, which, look, I don't think means much anymore. Doesn't really.
No, I mean, listen, I'll say this. It does feel like there is a chance that this is all theatrical. And like it's just part of, the Jerry Jones docs out. You know, they're both Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones themselves both very much enjoy being in the spotlight. They both enjoy the attention on them. Absolutely. We know that. I'll still say it does feel like in the next week or so he's going to end up signing. It does feel like if it is not all sort of fabricated, that Jerry Jones is just trying his like very ancient negotiation tactics, which is like publicly putting out information like, oh, as far as I'm concerned, we have a deal fully negotiated. It just needs to be signed. And like Micah Parsons and his agent denying that, whatever. It's really messy, honestly. And it's one of those things where we talk about all the time. The NFL players have like a very strong, almost Stockholm syndrome sometimes for the teams that draft them if they're not good, for example. Like, why hasn't Trey Hendrickson gotten his way out of Cincinnati for as terrible as they've treated him and whatever? Like, he should just want to get out of there. Why is Micah Parsons sticking around? Why did, you know, T. Higgins end up staying in Cincinnati? There's a lot of examples of teams, of players that get drafted by a bad team. Everything goes terribly, and then they end up staying. Max Crosby's another good example of that, where they just end up signing the big contract and staying put with, I guess, the assumption that things will get better, but things will never get better. Like Miles Garrett, for example, like if he really, really wanted to, he could have forced his way out of there and gotten out of there. But players just hold afflictions to the teams that draft them. They hold them in very high regard, and it feels like, despite the way that Jerry Jones has made these negotiations very public, very messy, it just feels like he's going to still end up signing and staying and playing, the next handful of years with Dallas. It's really
I gotta.
it's really something,
My thing. I think Michael. I guess just to kind of go the other way here to explore the other side of this case.
Sure.
I think he will re-sign with the Cowboys. I thought he was going to re-sign for the Cowboys for sure for like the past several weeks, because
Mhm.
we've seen this before. We've seen this happen. Guys hold out. teams are steadfast in what they want to pay, right? And then at the end of the day, they just come, they come together. That, like you say, they come together and they just get a deal done.
Yep.
I, I think Michael Parsons, like you said, he loves the attention.
He does.
I think because he does his podcast, he talks to all different players from all different teams. I think the idea of free agency really excites him. Not that he
I mean,
doesn't
he would reset the market,
well, not that he doesn't want to be a Cowboy, but when if you look at it from a business relationship standpoint, because that's like to your point, like you were kind of we were talking about it, like you said, Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
When you're an NFL player, like you need to think of yourself like you're a businessman, right?
Sure.
Like there's AJ Brown Enterprises, Jalen Hurts Incorporated, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's you have to think that way so you can maximize your money because your career doesn't last very long, right?
No, it does not. Not in the NFL.
Not in the NFL. If you're Micah Parsons, you've already started like building your brand a little like outside of being on the field. Like, what if I don't know the Atlanta Falcons are like Micah, like we want to like Micah, like we want to make you the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Hey, do you want to do a show for our website too every week? We'll pay you extra for it. We'll give you all like you know what I mean. We'll give you we'll do this. Oh, does your family want their own box in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? We'll give that to you too in the contract.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like he wants that,
Yeah.
because he knows how good he is. Like the Cowboys wouldn't do that for him. I think that's the point. Jerry Jones still thinks this is 1992.
He does still operate like that. It's ridiculous, honestly.
Like if you're a player and he's just like yeah, Jerry Jones basically you say he basically like mind f's these guys
Mm-hmm.
in his staying. He guilts them. Like I mean, when's the last like who was like I don't know, like outside of like Michael Irvin and Emmett Smith and like Troy Aikman, who are the last guys that used to play for the Cowboys
Well, John, here's the thing. Can
who
you
are
name
like, oh
who's
my
the
god, I
last
love
free agent signing for the Cowboys that actually means something? The only players they acquire are disgruntled with their former team, like Amari Cooper or like um, George Pickens, But all the other guys that they get are the ones that they draft, and you gotta give them credit. You draft a guy that's really, really good. It's why, despite the fact that they've never actually broken through in the last 25 years, they're never bad for an extended period of time. The Cowboys aren't perennial 4 to 6 win, losers in the league. They're perennial playoff contenders every year. So that's goes to show that they're a really good drafting team, but what these negotiations do, and these very public holdouts and whatever, is it's it just deters people from wanting to go there. Like, no one in free agency, and whether the Cowboys even try or not, because it seems like they don't even try in terms of actually making legitimate offers at free agents because they think they're so like strapped to cash for the way that they operate and how bad they are managing the cap, whatever. But no one wants to go to a team whose owner will take it to like national news of interviews talking about your contract negotiations with the best player on the team by like one of the best players in all of football. It's like, okay, if he's going to go up there and say like, yeah, me and Micah, or Micah just needs to come and sign it, and the agent's always around, whatever. It's how can you, as a lesser of player, want to even be associated with that. He can't even take care of his best players on the team. What makes me think that he's going to take care of me when I'm not as good as Micah Parsons is, or not as important as Dak Prescott is as a quarterback, or as good as CeeDee Lamb
Well,
is?
Michael, look at how much they pay for coaches. I
John, they
thought,
did it with Zach Martin. Like, of all people, Zach Martin, like the one of the best Cowboys linemen in the history, one of the longest like support beams in that
yeah,
franchise's
first ballot
history
Hall
the
of
last
Famer.
20. Yes, and he was getting, this same sort of situation. He's just a guard, so it gets a lot less attention. But the same thing was happening with him even.
Yeah, and so let's just kind of talk about how Jerry Jones likes to negotiate these contracts.
Mhm.
He tries to do it with the player without the agent present, which
Yes.
back like 30, 40 years ago, like probably still violated like the collective bargaining agreement,
Players
but
didn't know better, you know?
now like he's trying to do the same thing. I don't know, man. It's like I mean, how do I put this? Like Jerry Jones is definitely that type of dude who like there's like old like CEOs that do inappropriate things, and he's like, "Oh, it was so much
Yes.
better 40 years ago when I was
Yes, when
allowed
I
to
could
be a
do
creep.
those things.
I could be a
Yes,
creep and get away with it." Where
literally.
now it's like it's sort of like you're I don't know. He's turning in Al. I think he's like turning into Al Davis, and
Yeah, could
Al Davis was like, and here's the difference between him and Al Davis was just kind of like as being like a football historian. Like Al Davis would like was pro player.
mhm,
Like he would go buck wild in free agency paying dudes. He was paying guys he shouldn't have been paying lots of money.
yeah,
Basically, Al
right,
Davis, right? Because he
right.
was pro player because he grew up poor, so he grew up very poor.
Empathize
So he
with the
empathized with the
general
players.
athlete. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, it's just it's really ugly, and honestly, as an Eagles fan, perfectly fine with all this, but it's just like, I think Cowboys fans are finally starting to come to terms with, like, we are genuinely not gonna win a damn thing until Jerry's out of the picture.
It cracks me up though that they can't even like rage bait anymore without it like being successful.
Mhm.
Like someone's like, oh, they're not making an 8-part series, and that like I think it was
About the
blog.
Eagles, yeah, yeah, I saw that. Which is like, that's what they have to resort to here. This is like Jerry Jones's last dance. He's putting out a documentary when the cards are stacked against him for the first time or whatever, that he thinks that he needs to remind everybody how great he used to be. It's the same thing with the Jordan thing. Like that, the Last Dance went into shooting as soon as the Cavs came back from down 3-1 against Golden State. That was Jordan's like, okay, people are really going to start having conversations about LeBron. It's time for me to remind everybody. And Jerry Jones is doing the same thing. He's like, this laughing has gone on for far too long. It's time to remind everybody of the great heist that I did trading away Herschel Walker. Where it's just like, it's all it is just Jimmy Johnson erasure. Like Jimmy Johnson, as if he wasn't the one that really helped like push. He tries
Do
to make it sound like Jimmy
do
Johnson
you know why
didn't do
Jimmy
anything.
Johnson stopped coaching the Cowboys?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So after they won their second Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson,
Hmm.
they had the owners meetings, and the coaches were there.
Yeah.
This is like the early 90s. And then Jerry Jones was bragging about how good the Cowboys were. And he
Hmm.
goes, oh, he's like, our team's so good. Anybody can coach the Cowboys and win a Super Bowl. Jimmy Johnson heard that, goes into a room with Jerry Jones. And he's like, oh, anybody can. He's like, who brought all these players in? Jerry, wasn't you? And he's like, and then they basically, he told Jerry, "Oh, if that's how you feel, fire me, and
Yeah.
then fire me if you think if anybody can do it." Like Michael, think about it. Imagine if Clark Hunt, after the Chiefs beat the Eagles, in the Super Bowl 57 bragged about how anybody can win a Super Bowl with this Chiefs roster or with Patrick Mahomes,
It's one of those
and
things where
disrespected Andy Reid
it's
publicly.
totally tone deaf, as if like the head coach shouldn't be a part of like he should like all Jerry Jones had to really do was just like he could have pat himself on the back for hiring Jimmy Johnson. Like that's what it could have been. Instead of trying to be like, "Oh, Jimmy's getting all the credit. I need all the credit." All you could have said was like, "Man, like how about that Jimmy Johnson? I knew when I hired him that he was gonna be the one that really helped us get over the top that Jimmy Johnson that I hired was gonna be the best guy." Then like I think Jimmy Johnson would have been like, "Whatever, I know what you're trying to do, but you're still giving me a lot of credit. I won't mind." But it's the fact that he needed the credit in replacement of the credit for the head coach. Like that's asinine. That's truly asinine. I can't imagine that anywhere else. Chiefs example, if Jeffrey Lurie said, "Man, how about this roster? Any coach can do that." And just like it's such an FU to like Sirianni. It's such an FU to the head coach. Like, no, and that's just I mean, there's a reason.
Honestly, it would be like if
It would be the Chiefs example. It would
imagine if
be if Clark
Sirianni
Hunt
said
did it.
anybody can quarterback the Eagles' offense and score points like a Twitter troll.
Mhm.
Basically, it's like Jerry Jones is basically a multi-billion-dollar Twitter troll that runs an NFL team.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's really it's good. It's fun for us, but it's
I mean,
pretty
it's great for
embarrassing.
us. I mean, I know I'm not trying to like, I'm like, if this was any other team but the Cowboys, I would probably take pity on the fans of that team. Like if this was
Mhm.
like the Browns, then I feel bad for them.
Mhm.
Like it like yeah, like this is pathetic. Speaking of the Cleveland Browns, Michael, we did not get a chance to talk about the Eagles preseason game slash joint practices with the Cleveland Browns all that much, if at all. So why don't
No,
we
we
talk about?
loosely talked about I mean, we talked about the joint practice. We talked about that. Myles Garrett was wrecking things. The Browns defense was looking good. The Eagles just didn't look great in it, but I mean, they're they had a lot of guys not playing. I don't know. It is what it is. The game we did not talk about, where I guess I don't know, like DTR didn't look very good. Kyle McCord didn't look very good. It's neither of which is trying to actually win the third string quarterback role. I don't really like Kyle McCord played the entire third preseason game. I don't know if that means he's going to get the job or if it means he's not going to get the job. I don't know because he didn't play particularly well in that game, I have to say, last night.
So I would say this cut down day is next Tuesday. The Eagles are going to carry two quarterbacks on the 53 man, and then they're going to carry either DTR or McCord
Yeah, on the
on the
practice squad.
practice squad. If I were to take I mean, if you need, I mean, here's the thing with McCord is
Yeah, McCord stinks. It was like for every one decent solid throw he made, he'd make like two underthrows or an overthrow. Like there were, they were dialing up some deep balls, and he's got a guy open. He just throws it late or underthrown
well,
or
since they
both.
both looked bad, my guess is it's going to be whoever did better in the training camp practices, 7-on-7.
Sure, and like I would guess that McCord has a bit of the inside angle as the guy that they drafted this year versus the guy they just acquired for dumping Kenny Pickett when really they probably mostly only cared about the draft
And
pick.
I want to bring up a good point though. The Eagles were rotating their centers a lot the last two games. Like Brett Toth would rotate in,
Mhm.
and then I'm sorry, Michael, who's the other center they were rotating in?
Uh, I don't remember.
Not Trevor Keegan.
No, he doesn't play center. Was it was it Drew Kendall?
Yes, Drew Kendall. Yes, Drew
Okay.
Kendall.
Yeah.
If you're a quarterback and you're having a different center every series, it's kind of hard to do your job as a quarterback reading the defense pre-snap because the center's there to help you, and it doesn't really help. It's probably good to see like, hey, if we put our centers under extreme pressure
Mm-hmm.
by making them rotate, let's see who handles it better.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the problem is it really hurt Kyle McCord. I think maybe it's a way to see how McCord would handle pressure. Didn't do a great job of it. So I think it's going to come down to the practices. Like the Eagles don't take these preseason games, I think, very seriously. I know you mentioned pre-show. Well, look at Reed Blankenship, and that's how he made the team.
It's not that they're not trying or whatever, but you're just putting out guys that are fighting for a roster spot. Like, Darius Cooper was out there yesterday. Terrace Marshall was out there yesterday. Um, I'm blanking. What's his name was out there yesterday as well. Elijah Cooks played a decent bit. He had a good handful of catches. I mean, John Mechie was out there as well. So, like, there was a lot of competition yesterday. Like Gabe Hall and Ty Robinson played a lot. Ojulari was on the field a lot. Like those guys are all out there. Smile Munden, like they're trying to win a job here. They're trying to be that. Who's going to be the Oren Burks of this year's team? If Trotter is more slotted in to be kind of like a Zach Bond replacement, and Jahad Campbell's your Nakobe Dean, replacement. If another one goes down, you're looking at Smile Munden. Is he going to be the one replacing Bond? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a bunch of things like that. So it's not great football by any stretch, but it does
I
kind of
have a
tell you some
strong.
things.
I think when Nakobe Dean comes back, I think you're going to see Jahad Campbell get in a lot of edge.
I mean, I feel like when Nakobe Dean comes back, I think they're really going to ease him in. I don't think they're going to get him back in there and all of a sudden start playing him 80+% of the snaps or anything like that. I don't think they should either. I think you got to kind of, well, we saw some stat with the injury that he had where it's like 40% of the time you never come back the same, like something ridiculous like that. So hopefully he's able to. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, the way it sounds from reporters is that they're probably in the dark as much as they've ever been with cut down day. Like they don't really have a confirmed vibe on who's going to be making the roster as the depth pieces, who's not, whatever. If I had to guess, or like who's going to be starters, like it's a lot of it's just like I think up in the air. Like I think Makuba would be the starter if he's 100% healthy. I think that he's earned that. But with him dealing with a hamstring issue, it looks like Sidney Brown could get the start at least right away. A lot of people are speculating Adoree Jackson is going to be the starting corner opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. But, neither him nor Ringo played. I don't think either of them necessarily won the job as much as maybe one of them lost the job to the other one. So we're going to see some, I think, rotations. I think that receiver room is interesting. We should talk about the John Mechie trade. So the Eagles traded for John Mechie, former Alabama star, tore his knee, had leukemia, battled a lot, and is going to be
Best
slotted
friends
in.
with Devontae Smith.
Yeah, is going to be slotted in as the number 4 receiver on this team. And they did that, and we were like, oh, I wonder why they did that. And then it came out 2 days later that Johnny Wilson had season-ending surgery on his knee and ankle, and it's like, okay, so that's why they did that. They got I think they got a guy they felt they could trust a little bit more as the 4th receiver as opposed to whether it's Anais Smith, Terrace Marshall, or Darius Cooper. I don't know who's going to make the roster out of that group. Darius Cooper, a lot of people have said spoke very highly about. A lot of people said even as good of a camp as Jahan Dotson is having, Cooper's probably having the best receiver camp out of everybody. I thought Terrace Marshall looked pretty good yesterday. Anais Smith has been around for a few years. I think they like his ability to
I
kind of
think
be a
Darius
returner.
Cooper. I feel like Darius Cooper in the Eagles' minds is like the Reed Blankenship in 2022, where
Perhaps.
he played so well. You're like, we gotta, he was a priority undrafted free agent for them. When the Eagles have priority undrafted rookie free agents, like they view them the same as if they were drafted. You know,
No, for
they
sure. And like when you play well like that, it's hard to just not keep it for the sake of not keeping it.
but when he came
Um,
out, his scouting report, he projected as a slot receiver. Jahan Dotson, free agent at the end of the season, did not pick up the 5th-year option for him.
it,
John Mechie, intriguing guy. I mean, Johnny
he's more of an
Wilson.
outside
I
guy
mean,
though.
Johnny
Like,
Wilson suffered a serious injury, so I don't know what his
and none of
status is
those
going to be.
guys are like slot options. Mechie's your outside burner. It's just better receiver depth in the event that Brown something
Well, you
happens
would
to him
like to
again.
have here's the thing too is you look at the Eagles last year, and when we were all pissing and moaning and crying weeks 1 and 6, what was one thing the Eagles suffered from that no one really wanted to talk about? They had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. I mean, remember in the Saint
I mean,
game,
AJ Brown missed multiple games. Like he
yeah,
missed
but no
two
one
games that you
when they lost to
lost.
the Buccaneers, no one's like, oh man, they really miss AJ
I mean,
Brown.
AJ Brown. Yeah, AJ Brown missed 3 games. He missed, and they went 1-2 in the 3 games. And the one Saints game, yeah, Devonta Smith got knocked out of it halfway through the game. He was having a great game, and then got knocked out. So like, it got to the point where when there were the injuries, it felt like throwing to receivers was pretty hopeless. It was like Dotson, who's
Paris
fine, but
Campbell,
if he's your best one, Christ, yeah, Paris Campbell and like Johnny
Aeneas
Wilson
Smith.
last year was not very good, and Nia Smith was fine. Whereas I'm not saying, oh, they're gonna be just fine if Brown and Devonta Smith get hurt again. No, but like if one of them goes down, if AJ Brown goes down, as he usually misses a game or two, Devonta Smith with Dotson and John Mechie, and then potentially if Darius Cooper's going to keep it up like that
Zach
plays a little
Pascal's a
bit.
free agent.
He is a free agent. That plays though, so it'll be interesting to see. I think they'll be better suited to handle some receivers getting banged up this year as opposed to they were unable to last year.
Real quick, we'll wrap up the Eagles talk, and then go to the NFC South. But I want to end this on good news. Landon Dickerson, he got his uh, meniscus injury.
Mhm,
Was we thought it was going to be a season-ending injury.
mhm.
Turns out he's probably going to come back. Latest the Rams game, earliest week 1.
Yeah, he seems luckily pretty fine. It's Embiid-ish, like that sort of Embiid injury, but when Embiid has the injury like 7 times, there's really no like meniscus left to kind of clean up. Um, Whereas I think Landon Dickerson's got plenty. So the the recovery and worrisome of it all is not as severe. I think that the more times you have an issue, the more times it'll be bad. But for one of the earlier times, listen, he's very very important to this team, especially with Mailata having a concussion at the moment, and it's just some uncertainty in the interior offensive line if he's out. It's very important that he comes back, but it's very important that he comes back without like an extreme risk of something more serious. I don't
I mean, he
think
was walking out the day after surgery, handing out beers to Browns
exactly.
players.
No, I know. And I think as an offensive lineman, those sort of knee injuries are not as they're not as hard to come back from, I'll say. You're not a wide receiver or a defensive back that needs to cut and plant their foot in the ground and make quick, sharp turns and agile movements like that. Like, yes, it's very technically sound with your feet and your lower half as an offensive lineman, but having to like anchor down and kind of hold your bearings and hold your body weight is not as stressful on those like ligaments in your knee as opposed to trying to hit an outbreaker and quickly planting your foot and cutting to the outside, or quickly planting your foot and stopping on a dime. Like it's just a different it's different motion, and that's why you see skill players tend to come back a little worse than offensive linemen, for example. So looks like we survived the worst with Dickerson. But you want to get into the NFC South?
Yeah, let's talk about the NFC South. So, I mean, Michael, the running joke on this division is like, and I guess the same thing with the AFC South. It's like the worst division in the NFC in terms of depth. You know, feels like in the last couple years, oh, we're playing an NFC South team. We should win this game. Kind of,
Yeah,
right?
it's yeah.
Michael,
Besides the AFC
I
South.
think I think three teams in this division have gotten to a certain extent, maybe with their rosters better, or because health reasons. Now that they're healthy, they're going to be better, potentially better. And then there's one team that may win one game, two games this
Let's
year.
talk about that one team, John. Who is it?
That would be the New Orleans Saints. Michael, I am so happy that the Saints are an embarrassment to football again, because before they got good, like you were like I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember when they were just so bad, Michael. Like their fans would wear paper bags over their heads, and they would draw the little Florida Lees with the
Mhm.
tears down the eye holes. Like
Yeah,
and they would
like
like, say ain'ts,
they
the ain'ts.
they they have some it's weird. They have some players. They have some players that like are solid for sure. Um, Olave's pretty good, but he can't stay healthy. Kamara's very good. His health has always been somewhat up in the air. Cameron Jordan's still getting it done. Demario Davis is honestly still getting it done somehow. Chase Young showed flashes. Justin Reed is a pretty good player.
They're gonna
He's
have a
got he's
Michael.
actually
They're
quite
gonna
good.
have a fire sale at the NFL trade deadline
Maybe
because they're
yeah,
gonna want
it's
picks because this
yeah.
upcoming the next two upcoming NFL drafts are gonna be loaded.
Yeah. But I think it's pretty easy to say they have the worst quarterback room in the entire league. I think it's somehow worse than the Browns, as bad as the Browns is. But you look at New Orleans, like Spencer Rattler is terrible. Tyler Shuck has looked pretty bad throughout camp in the preseason. And Jake Haener is no good at all.
Michael, I'm trying to think back, let me just.
They
I'm trying
brought
to
back
think.
Brandon Cooks.
Michael, this is like the worst quarterback room I've seen since like the winless Browns team pre Baker.
Oh, like Deshaun Kaiser. Yeah. Yeah, the Hugh Jackson Browns. Yeah,
I
those were
mean, can you
bad
think of?
teams.
I mean, can you think of anything worse?
Um, no, not in recent memory. It's really bad. They're gonna be pretty terrible. I'm shocked. Maybe they have and we just don't know. But I am shocked if the Saints hadn't been calling the Eagles about Tanner McKee. Feels like that would have made sense for Kellen Moore especially to do, to try to call and get him over, get him, see what he has if he's going to start a full season, even with an ugly roster like the Saints one is. They're just not going to be good. Like last year, was it last year they started off like no, that
You
was
know,
2 years ago. They started off pretty crazy. What was the year where it was like, oh my god, next coming Clint Kubiak?
it was last year.
Was that last year?
So,
Jesus.
yeah, they scored like 40 points in back to back games, and everyone thought,
And they had the most like efficient
yeah,
EPA
Derek Carr
stats
was cooking.
ever.
And then they played the Eagles, and that was when the Eagles defense, after they gave up that game winning drive to Kirk Cousins, when we should not have kicked the field goal, we should have gone for it on fourth down. You
Who
know,
cares? Who
right?
cares?
Whatever. But long story short, the Eagles basically, despite the Eagles shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly in that game, whatever momentum the New Orleans Saints had in that game was basically like they got exposed as frauds.
It was an Eagles defensive coming out party even prior to, and even though next week they ended up getting ravaged, but that was again, I'll never understand how Vic Fangio and the defense thought that Baker like holds on to the ball too long. And then granted he did in those first couple weeks, but like I don't know. The Bucks have had a winning formula against us for a couple years now, and it's essentially getting the ball out as fast as possible. And for whatever reason, Fangio thought they were going to be air raiding down the field against us at will, and they just weren't. Anyways, that's Eagles' defensive performance was great. It was a Zach Bond masterclass. Brandon Graham played really, really
Reed
well.
Blankenship.
Blankenship had a bit like everyone was just really good on the
Right. I
defensive
think
side of
everyone,
the
and
ball.
then and I remember after I want to say after the Falcon game on this show, you were like,
John, the Eagles were
you want the Eagles to fire
underdog.
Sirianni and replace him with Clint Kubiak.
I did. Listen, John, I can't lie.
I said Liam
It,
Cohen. I said Liam Cohen. By the way, I would say the guy
and
is
listen,
more
that would have been
accomplished.
that would have been better. But John, I think we forget, or at least people forget, how heavy of underdogs the Eagles were in week 3 against New Orleans.
6 points.
What was week 3? That was in September. It wasn't 6. The Eagles were like plus 130 on the money line, which that is like 3 points, 2.5, 3 points as an underdog. And like at the time, I guess it felt fine. But like you look at if you were to blind show like, okay, the Super Bowl champions that kind of steamrolled their way there, and this Saints team that I think everyone is putting at 32 in the depth chart or in the power ranking. They matched up last season. What do you think the line was? I don't think anyone would ever competently guess what it actually ended up being of the Eagles being that much of underdogs. So all this to say is that the Saints started off really hot and then looked pretty putrid the rest of the season. And this year, their outlook is honestly worse. Like we weren't high on the Saints entering last year. I think there were some people that were, and I thought that was a little crazy. But they're going to be bad. I think there's no other way to slice it. They're just not going to be a good
Well,
team.
the Saints have.
They're going to have some really bad quarterback play.
Well, so here's the big thing with the Saints is that they're a team that's getting older. They have good players, but they're a team that really needs to look at, like, they need to do a rebuild. They're like the Flyers pre-Danny Briere, basically, is what they
Oh,
are.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's pretty bad, ain't it, huh? Yeah, that's pretty much
horrible.
what they are. That's pretty much. Yeah. And their GM, Mickey Loomis, who's been their GM for over Michael, he's been the GM for like 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like kicking the can, like basically like they kick the can down the road.
I mean, they were doing what the Eagles have been doing before the Eagles started doing it. They made like Taysom Hill one of the highest paid players, and it lowered the cap hit. Like they've been manipulating the cap for a long, long time. Every year it feels like, oh, the
But you
Saints
feel
have
like the
this much in
Eagles
dead
just know
cap.
how to do it better than them.
Well, they just get better players. Like that's the big difference. If the Saints were able to get some better players in there, like
we're manipulating
been able to
AJ Brown's contract. They're manipulating Taysom Hill.
Exactly. It's definitely not the same.
By the
But
way,
yeah,
when we know Taysom Hill is going to be a Denver Bronco, let's just
that'd be pretty funny.
He's going to be.
So the Saints are bad, and that's pretty much it. The next team I want to talk about.
Can we? I'm sorry. Can we go back to the Saints real quick?
Oh God.
And then we'll just talk about this one last point. So, Kellen Moore is their head coach. Michael, I know there's only 32 of these jobs that in the NFL. There's only 32 men in the world that can hold this job. Don't you kind of think Kellen Moore maybe should have held out for like this next year for a better position?
I think he learned his lesson from being in Dallas, where he did hold out, and then
he got fired.
Job offers, like he held out, and then the job offers dried up pretty quickly. So I think that he was just trying to get his head coaching job and secure it as quick as possible. And like I get your point. Like he went into a situation that is a team of doom and despair, and they don't feel like they're going to be any good anytime soon, unless And maybe they get Arch Manning, and all of a sudden, like their spirits will turn or whatever. But
Yeah, it's more like going to be like
it's just an ugly team. It's
Lenoris,
an ugly.
who's a
It's a
dog.
very very ugly team that if he had waited, you think about potential jobs that would open up after this year. I don't know, like, what's gonna open? Are the Bengals gonna open up their head coaching position if they
I
miss the
will,
playoffs again? Like, are the Bills
probably.
another playoff disappointment away from firing Sean McDermott, or is that too early to say? Um, you know, are the I don't know. There's a lot of you don't know what's going to happen as it's going to happen. Like, does he really is if Kevin Stefanski gets fired this year, is that like a desirable location to go to Cleveland? Like, not particularly. No. LaFleur's not really going anywhere. Like, eh, you think about the teams that could potentially have some openings, like the Giants. Or would the Giants be more enticing in a year versus New Orleans? I don't know if
I
that's the
think
case.
that
Like,
Kellen. Here's the thing with the Saints: they hold on to their coaches for a long period of time. Dennis Allen held that job probably longer than he should have had. I think Kellen. They must have came to an agreement. They told Kellen Moore, "Look, you know, if we bottom out your first year or two, and we get in a position to draft a franchise altering quarterback like DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Lenoris Sellers. Drew Aller, no. He's no. Drew Aller, no. Sorry, Penn State fans. No. Garrett Nussmeyer. I know like that's gonna be who they're gonna pick, because that his dad is their offensive coordinator.
maybe, yeah. No, listen, like it's regardless of all that. Like maybe they did promise him a few years where it's like, listen, man, we're gonna hold on to you. You don't got to worry about anything the first couple. Like maybe I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and not wanting to press your luck. Like, what if the Eagles, knock on wood, hope this doesn't happen, but what if the injuries do pile up and they kind of struggle through the season? We know how hard of a schedule they have, and they only win like 10 games and finish as a wild card and get bounced pretty early, and the offense looks like pretty much in the mud all year, and especially the passing game doesn't look great. Like, all of a sudden, Kellen Moore's job is no longer, you know, hiring Kellen Moore is no longer super enticing. Like, it just isn't. Um, and obviously, what I named is like the worst case scenario, but it just feels like when you have the opportunity to get it as soon as you can, I think you jump on it. I think Shane Steichen, you could have made that same argument. After 2021, he wasn't getting head coach calls, but after 2022, they went and lost the Super Bowl. Was the Colts job really the best job out there for you to have, or could he
Yeah,
have?
they drafted AR-15 the following year,
Sure,
which
sure, but could
at the
they?
time looked really good.
Of course, but, like, you could have argued, "Listen, man, you
Oh,
stay, you win a Super Bowl, and maybe you get a more surefire
yeah.
job. Maybe the
Yeah.
Denver job would have been better to have," you
Oh,
know?
I wish Zach was here, because he would have poked at me, but you need to talk about Daniel Jones. Let's speed this
We
through
don't
here.
need to talk about it. I mean, what is there to talk about with that?
How stupid it is, and make fun of it.
Yeah, I guess, it just, like, the Colts are I don't know, the Colts are just they're not good. They haven't been good, honestly, since Peyton, even with Andrew Luck. Like, they were good, but they were still very stupidly run. And as soon as they figured out things like the offensive line and the defense, Andrew Luck had already retired. So
Right.
they're just pretty sad. It's like, I saw Theo Ash made a very funny comp of like calling Anthony Richardson nerds gummy clusters and Daniel Jones quinoa puffs. And it's like, yeah, Daniel Jones is the not good, very average snack that you should probably have all the time because it's not going to like kill you. Where Anthony Richardson is the much more fun, much more enjoyable snack, but probably not too good for you to be eating all the time and having every week and whatever. And Anthony Richardson, you watch how he plays, he can pressure the defense with the arm, he can pressure the defense with his legs, but despite having pretty athletic features, he still takes some ridiculously hard hits, and he lacks some touch on the ball and throws some hospital passes, as well as putting himself in hospital situations. So you just go with the one that's boring and like safer, as opposed to the fun but probably not safe option. All that to be said, it's still pretty stupid. You probably should just start Anthony Richardson, who still just does not have very many professional or collegiate NFL games played at quarterback. And in a year where your expectations are pretty low, you might as well just play him to see, just to get him more
The
reps
only
and see if he
reason he's
maybe
not
breaks
playing,
through.
Michael, the only reason I think he's not playing is that there's probably people on that team. You hear some like there's one quote he said after a game. This was like before he pulled himself out of a game for being tired,
Right.
which probably pissed off a lot of his teammates.
Like, I think that might be carrying weight. Like, I don't think they think he's a leader or
Like this
whatever
is
as a
not he's
quarterback.
not Bryce Young, where
No.
he's just in a poopy situation and he just needs to deal with it, which I think is a good segue for
Yeah.
the next team we're going to talk about, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. I'm
I think the
intrigued.
Panthers. I am in Michael. I agree with you. I'm very intrigued by them.
I am. I look at their defense, and it's not exciting. It's not very
I feel
exciting.
bad for Evero because I think he is a really good defensive coordinator, but they never give him players to help his defense.
Right. And I think they did a good job where it's like, listen, we need to make sure that Bryce Young has weapons and beef up the offensive
Which
line.
is the
And
correct thing to do.
it is. But like now it's time to pivot to start building out a defense so you can actually start winning games as opposed to
Yeah, but you look at
just
some
kind
of
of
the
being
like
embarrassed.
I remember when they played the Chiefs, I remember when the Chiefs were coming back in that game. I was watching it, and like Mahomes is rolling out to his right, and they had Josie Jewell was the spy. Like so, his job was basically to stand in in the flat to make sure he doesn't run by you,
Yeah.
and like I think Kelsey or
Juju or D
Juju or
Hop.
someone was like triple covered, so he just tries to like run the other direction. And like an absolute moron, he follows him, and he's not even doing his job of like spying Mahomes on third down to make sure he doesn't scramble for a first down. And it was very Nate Garryish was what my point is. It's very Nate Garryish where like this guy is an absolute idiot. Like he's trying
Yeah. So you look at
and that's basically like their defense is like
yeah.
they have a couple good players. Like they're getting
Derek Brown. Derek
Derek
Brown's
Brown
very
back.
good.
That's huge. He's one of the best
J.C.
interior
Horn.
defensive linemen in football. J.C. Horn, when he's healthy, he's a borderline elite corner when he's healthy, but he's never healthy. That's the problem.
Yeah, like, a Rose Boom Wallace linebacker core with Josie Jewell kind of stepping away from football for a little bit, with his concussions that he's had. It just their defense is so uninspiring. I don't feel it got much better, and it doesn't feel like their ceiling is all that high either. Like, even if all things go right, it's still just not gonna be that good. So I think when to tune into a Panthers
Could
game,
could
there's
they be
no point in watching their defense.
NFC Bengals? Because
I
they've
don't
got
think
weapons.
they're there yet. Like, all right, let's pivot to the offensive side of the ball then. I like Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young looked really, really good after the benching, which I think everyone was like, "This is stupid," and I was one of those people. I was like, "What's the point?" And then like it worked. It just giving him that time off
I
and
thought,
giving him
I
that
mean, I
break.
think I was in favor of the benching, not like, oh, screw this guy. It was like they
I just
rushed
felt
him
it was
out.
pointless to be dragging him around back and forth, and it felt like confidence is what he needed, and the benching of it all felt
I thought the way
shattering.
I looked at it was like this poor guy had his entire rookie year wasted with like piss poor coaching. Now they brought in a good coach. Maybe you let
Frank
Andy,
Reich, the piss poor coach, by the way.
yes, maybe like you let Andy Dalton get. I was like, why don't you let Andy Dalton get paid $13 million to be a tackling dummy, And then once
Right.
their offensive line like gels and figures it out, then you put Bryce Young out there to not die.
Listen, Bryce Young cooked, played really well against the Eagles, played really well against the Chiefs, and like those
Well,
are
dude, he didn't really have a great game against the Eagles. The Eagles were beating the crap out of him for most of the game,
I
and
mean,
then in the fourth
statistically,
quarter, then he started cooking, and then Xavier Legette dropped a touchdown.
yeah, I mean, like statistically, it wasn't that great, and like you had the turnover, whatever. But it's like it's one of those games where it's like, okay, you actually turn on and watch how he looks with your own two eyes, and you're like, man, he was making some really impressive plays throughout the course of the game, like on his own goal line, evading pressure, looking downfield, making plays. He essentially beat the Eagles. We can call it what it is. He dropped the game-winning touchdown. Um, You like Chuba Hubbard is good. He's a solid, very solid running back. I don't think he's anything super special, but he's very, very solid. And very intriguing Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne depth in that running back room as well. That'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on
A
throughout
good
the
way
course
to
of the
mask a
season.
bad defense, Michael, is controlling the clock.
Yeah. And you look at their receiver room. Now it looks like they're trying to trade Adam Thielen.
Back to
Right?
Minnesota
Back to Minnesota, which is
because
interesting.
it's because Addison suspended the first 3 games, and not gonna lie, their
No,
depth
I
after
know why
Addison
Minnesota's
isn't
doing
very
it,
good.
but yeah, and like if you're the Panthers, I guess trading away the 30-something-year-old receiver isn't the end of the world. But Ted McMillan and Xavier Legette is a pretty solid 1-2
Well,
receiver.
actually, Michael, I would say that the guy that's really like he's like their version of like Devonte Smith. Not saying he's good as Devonte Smith, is Jalen Coker.
Yeah,
They
I
re-
was gonna
that
mention Coker too, because it's a nice core. McMillan, Legette, Coker, and then they added Hunter Renfro to see if he's got anything left in the tank. Um, Which, listen, that could be a solid little receiving core, and if Bryce Young looks as good as he did last year towards the end of the season, I don't see why the Panthers can't compete with, like, pushing to get 10 wins. I don't think that's totally out of the realm. You
yeah,
look
third
at
place schedule.
yeah, you look at their schedule, it's something I do wanna look at. It's at Jacksonville, at Arizona, I have to say, like, as those teams aren't like world beaters, those are definitely not easy games to start up with. Um, Home against Atlanta and then at New England versus Miami early in the season. Like it's not an as a third place schedule as it is, it's not super easy. You you go through stretches where it's like a couple tough teams, then an easy team mix in there, and then some other couple tough teams. Like they're one of the teams that have a really late bye week as well. Um, and then they end their season at New Orleans, home Tampa, home Seattle, at Tampa. Like that's just a pretty ugly game there. Yeah, man. I just their schedule for a third place schedule is not super exciting. It's not very easy, but it's not impossible, I guess, either. It'll be they'll be battling. They'll be battling. Probably finish somewhere between 7 and 10 wins, I would say, is my guess. Probably more likely in that 7-8 range. If I had to guess, their win total over under is likely. What do you think their win total is?
Like 6.5.
Yes, it is 6.5. So that's about right. I think I
Hey,
would. I think I would
hey, my phone's off
optimistically
too,
take
man.
the
My
over.
phone. I didn't
I listen.
cheat.
I believe you. I believe you. Saints 5.5. So that tells you that. But yeah, I think the Panthers are in store for a solid season. Maybe could
I
on a
mean, listen.
good day.
If there's a team that's gonna like maybe pick like 10th or 11th, and you're like they draft like a true playmaker on defense because the way the draft just falls, like
Yeah.
edge, or a team that could go buck wild in free agency, like the New England Patriots did. It
They
could be
got
them,
money to
and they could
spend.
be.
It
They
could be
could.
them.
I mean, it really is going to depend on Bryce Young. I'm very bullish on
Me too.
Bryce
Me
Young.
too. I'm excited for him.
Yes, I think he is. I think he could be the best quarterback in this division. I
Oh,
think there's one guy in this division who's
hmm.
incredibly overhyped.
Overhyped or overrated or the
Overhyped,
same? All right, so that leads
not
me
overrated.
to
Overhyped. I think it's the next team to talk about.
Atlanta. Let's get to Atlanta and talk
Yes.
about the Falcons. So Kirk Cousins, the backup quarterback to Michael Penix. It's just funny to look at the depth chart. Um, Before we get into Penix, because he is like what's going to be the big telltale, we do have to, I think, flaunt about their other really good weapons. Bijan Robinson, incredible, top 3 running back in the game. Drake London, I think, kind of solidified himself as like a top 10 wide receiver in the game. Um, I think he played really, really well last year. He moved me. I'll be honest. I was very down on Drake London coming out of the draft. I was like, screams J Jaw to me.
I
It
was
just
gonna
is
say
reeking of
we were
J
burned
Jaw.
by J Jaw.
Yeah,
We've
I was
seen the script.
traumatized
We've
of
seen the
like
script
this.
for this.
Yeah,
Pac-12 wide
and even
receiver bossing accountants. Like, okay,
Even 2
whatever.
years ago, I was like, "Okay, whatever," but last year, I was watching him and I was like, "Damn, he's getting open," and just every big down felt like it was going to him, and he was making a difficult catch or getting open, and I was like, "Okay, he might be that guy." So, Drake London's very, very good. I'm very high on Drake London. Mooney and McLeod are just very solid depth pieces to have, which is a shame because, like, I think they could probably use another good receiver, um, to really siphon it out, and maybe that good receiver is finally Kyle Pitts. Maybe Kyle Pitts
Oh God,
finally breaks out.
no,
Maybe
no,
finally
no,
he breaks
no.
out. Uh,
What? Sorry. Listen, Vernon Davis needed to be pulled from a game by Mike Singletary where he goes on one of the most epic rants, very underrated coaching rant
yes.
by Mike Singletary. And I'm going to talk about best coaching rants. I feel like no one brings that up. Can't win with him. Can't coach him.
Yeah.
I would rather get penalized for having 10 men on the field every single play than put him out there to play. Basically, like,
How about Vernon Davis, man? Like,
talk
it's
about
a
Vernon Davis.
it's
He's
an
who he's
all-time
talking
great.
about.
Yeah, right. So, maybe Kyle Pitts turns into Vernon Davis. That'd be awesome.
No, well, like I feel like Vernon Davis was way more talented. I think he
Yeah.
was on some bad teams, and then he got like basically a psycho. As none of those things apply to Pitts. Kyle Pitts is basically a wide receiver who plays tight end. Who Michael? He was garbage last year. Michael, he was bad. Like you watch
I
those
do
Falcon
think
games where it's like, oh, they're cooking with Drake London. Oh, like Mooney. Mooney's an underrated player. He's a good guy in the slot. Oh, look at Bijan makes a play. They get in the red zone. Kyle Pitts has a ball ricochet out of his hands. Giant defender picks it off, runs it back the other way for a touchdown.
yeah, but Kyle Pitts, I don't know. I think he probably couldn't have got drafted to, like, a worse situation initially, like, the Arthur Smith voodoo or whatever it
Tight
is,
end
but
obsessed coach.
it feels, I don't know, it just
The
feels
Steelers are
like a
running
mess.
4 tight end
You
sets.
look at our offensive line. Chris Lindstrom is one of the best interior in the
Right,
game.
right, right.
Um, Otherwise, like, fine players on their offensive line. It's nothing crazy, but I don't think it's anything bad. We know how good of a running attack they can have. All that to say, their offense, I think, will go as Michael Penix goes. Is Michael Penix
I think he's
going
very
to
overhyped. I think all
is
the
he
hype
gonna
that
break
should go to
out,
Bryce Young, who's a way better quarterback. So here's the thing with Michael Penix, Michael. Does he have a good arm? Yes. Is he completely immobile? Also, yes. You said it yourself. These immobile quarterbacks just don't play well.
You need to if you're gonna be immobile, you gotta be perfect.
He's
It's
basically
very
lefty. He's
hard.
basically lefty Goff, is what he is.
I
That is
honestly,
Michael
I don't even
Penix.
know if he's as good as Goff. I'll be honest. Like I think Goff is way more accurate. I think Penix has accuracy issues, and like last year, and like Grant was a rookie last year, but last year had a lot of timing issues as well. I think it's one of those things. It's not to say, oh, you'll know right away if Penix got a lot better or not, because you might not. We could have said that about Bryce Young, and would have all been wrong to say, oh, he's just terrible, get him out of the league. But there are things that he, I think, can get better at that very, very well can fit what
The
this.
Our producer says putting Penix in a box here. He's a good player.
Listen, I don't hate Michael Penix. Absolutely, I don't. I think that his skill set can also align itself pretty well with the receivers, like vertical threats of London, and even the idea of whatever Kyle Pitts can be, like pushing the ball vertically. I think that can really be a strong suit of his that like Kirk Cousins did not have in his bag last year. Kirk Cousins could not throw a ball like
Well,
with
Kirk
any sort
Cousins
of
was a
velocity.
corpse. They threw a corpse out there for 12
No, I
weeks.
know, I know, I know. But like the Falcons, honestly, the Falcons are my pick to win the AFC South or NFC South. And I think a lot of it for me is going to be they're going to lean on their skill players. Going to lean on Bijan a lot. He's going to have a crazy season. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he touches 2,000 all purpose. And like Drake London, I think is going to have another really big year. And I think that Penix can be a guy that totally leans on him, and he should. He should lean on him as
You're
much as he
drafting.
possibly can.
You're
What?
drafting Pitt. My butt.
Huh.
He's texting me. You're drafting Pitts in fantasy. Be in our league. Be honest. No,
It's
no, I'm not drafting Kyle Pitts.
I did do a mock draft yesterday just to play around with one, and I did take Kyle Pitts in like the 10th round. Maybe later, honestly. He as my
If
backup tight
Pitts can
end.
catch the football. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
if
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
catch a football, like that's see, I don't want
I
to have
think
these discussions with myself mentally.
I think
Hey,
people
if
are
this
gonna
guy
buy in one
can
more time.
do the most basic part of his job, then he'd be good at it.
Yeah. So voice your further concerns with Michael Penix.
See, my my concern with Penix is, dude, I just don't like these immobile quarter. Like, let me put it to you this way: if you had to start a game and you're the Falcons, and you had to pick between Michael Penix and Tanner McKee, who do you pick?
I mean, I don't know,
Michael, who
man.
do you pick?
I,
The fact that you're
I like
struggling, the
McKee,
fact that
man.
you're struggling to answer the question right off
Well,
the bat,
you want me to answer earnestly? I'm probably taking Penix.
you're, earnestly, where
Probably.
you're answering like your dad.
Yeah, probably.
Thank you.
Probably.
Okay. See. Here's my thing with Penix is I feel like when you get these guys that we when like the media and everybody overhypes a quarterback.
Has he really been overhyped though? I feel like I haven't seen this like, oh, Michael Penix is gonna honestly, I feel like it's been
There's
quiet
people
on the
picking the
Penix front.
Falcons to win the division, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Michael Penix, Michael Penix, Michael Penix,
I
Michael
think that's a
Penix."
Liam Cohen tax. I think that's a Liam Cohen's out the door. You're betting on the Bucks being injured and old and not being able to, or at least like Mike Evans falling off. You know, they had to make a wish him to get 1,000 yards last year. I don't know if he might not get it this year. He might not like be good enough to even be close to the make a wish territory, you know, like which I guess we're getting into too much of Tampa at the moment, but it'll be interesting. I'm intrigued to see how Penix looks this year. On the
Can I read
defensive
you
side of the
Michael Penix?
ball,
Can I read you Michael Penix's stats from last year?
listen, man, I know.
All
I know
right,
what it was. It wasn't, it wasn't great.
58% completion percentage, 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Quarterback rating 78.9. Offensive coordinator for the Falcons, Zach Robinson, probably one of the most hyped up offensive coordinator hirings that I've
That I
seen
think
in.
is more of a question. Was Zach Robinson overhyped as a Rams guy? Like, is we talk about it a little bit. The McVay tree might not be good as this. It's like the McVay tree is kind of like the Doug tree. You know, the Doug tree wasn't all that great, but But Andy Reid's tree was really, really good. So like Shanahan's tree is very good, but McVay's tree might not be very good. So that might be one of those similar situations that we'll have to keep an eye on. Excuse me. So I think Zach Robinson I think he's under a decent bit of pressure. Like, you were part of the regime that took him eighth overall. So clearly, whatever you saw in him, you had to believe in it. They don't okay that draft pick without the offensive coordinator's approval.
Well, let's
Um,
talk about their recent draft, and I think they're very poorly run. So
I kind of agree with
they
that.
took
Yeah.
Jalen Walker, I like Jalen Walker coming out of the draft. They also made an absurd trade to get back in the first round to take James
James
Pierce.
Pierce. Yeah.
James Pierce is kind of like the edge rushing version of Kyle Pitts in a way. Freak athlete, really talented. Didn't like showing up to practice last year for Tennessee, Michael. If you look at the Tennessee Volunteers last year with Nico Iamaleava and
Hmm.
the toxicity of his dad with that whole situation too. I mean, Michael, do you want to have to question your player's commitment to actually wanting to be good at his craft?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's also got like legitimate character concerns of like, you know, aggravated assault. He's got the driving suspension. Like there's issues there. Yeah, I mean the Falcons defense, I think could be something that holds it back. Looking at their depth chart, it's nothing jumps off the page at you a ton. Still got Terrell, Jesse Bates, Jordan Fuller, and Hughes to round out their secondary. With like Leonard Floyd, I didn't think Leonard Floyd had a great season last year, and I think
No.
he's coming in to another. Like he's going to be relied upon a lot more this year. Diablo and Ebikite, they're rookies. It could be fine. This division, I think, is going to be. It's got, I think, the lowest like ceiling in the NFL, if that makes sense. Like we talk about the AFC South is probably the worst division in football. Like highest potential of ass. I think that this division has the lowest potential of great, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because you look at the South. I mean, I think Cam Ward's a dog. I think he's going to be really good. You
That's
know,
what I'm saying. Like it could be good. Like let's say if Anthony Richardson ever fully actualized himself, and like I think we're pretty decently high on the Jags having a bounce back year with Liam Cohen, and we know how good the Texans defense is, and their
well,
great
also too,
rushing
it
rate
came
and
out
stuff.
that like Bobby Slowick wouldn't let C.J. Stroud call audibles or adjust protections.
Sure. But
So I
like
think that's
at
going to
worst
change.
case, yeah, and like worst case, a couple like the Jags don't have a great defense, and like maybe Trevor Lawrence will never be that guy. And the Titans were the worst team in football last year. Maybe just a rookie quarterback. Odds are things don't turn around right away. Maybe the Texans' offensive line drowns them again, and the Colts just suck. Like that's a legitimate, easily I think could be the worst division in football. But the ceiling of this division does not entice me at all. Like we talked about best case scenario for the Panthers, it's what, maybe 10 wins, maybe a playoff spot. The Saints we think are awful. Best case scenario for the Falcons, even you're probably not getting more than 11 wins out of that. And are they really going to be able to go toe to toe with some of the best teams in the NFC? Like, no, we don't believe that. And now we'll talk about Tampa and what's Tampa's ceiling. Talk about over under win props. Atlanta's over under is at 7.5, and Tampa's over under is at 9.5 wins. Is Tampa's ceiling that much higher? Like, is Tampa in a spot to dominate? I think there's chance, but I think it's going to depend a lot on the replacement of Liam Cohen.
I guess let's talk about Tampa. So, like Todd Bowles, Todd Bowles said in the last 15 years is the only coach to win 10 games with the New York Jets.
Wow,
Yeah. I think that's an accomplishment.
totally is.
Okay. And I think Aaron Glenn's going to do a good job with the Jets too for some reason. Maybe I'm probably an idiot.
All right, so what do
Uh,
we? Yeah,
anyway,
Tampa.
but here's the thing with the Bucks. They have the best roster in my opinion. I think the Bucks defense they were banged up last year, Michael. They were banged up pretty badly.
Hmm.
Antoine Winfield was banged up for like most of the season. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. specifically. I think he's one of the best defensive backs in pro football. He forces so many turnovers. Basically, he's like Minka Fitzpatrick in his prime in terms of
Sure.
causing havoc back there. And look, I think Kalijah Cansey, he was a guy the Eagles were looking at to draft, a couple years ago. Obviously, we got Jalen Carter instead. Kalijah Cansey's pretty good, I think.
Sure. We know how good Vita Vea is. Levante David's still doing it. It'll be interesting to
Yep,
watch
Mr.
Hassan Reddick.
Reddick.
Yeah,
I
if he's
think
able to,
Reddick, if he's like not being a nut job, or
if he's
being
committed.
if he's committed, like he was committed to the Birds, right? We saw how good he
Sure.
was when he was committed to the Eagles. He
Hmm.
could be that way. The only thing that I think Tampa has a concern at, in my opinion,
I
I think
think
from a
outside
roster side,
corner.
is their corners.
Yeah, Jamal Dean and Zion McCollum is not very exciting. I can't lie.
But
It's
we look
not
at the
doing.
offensive side. I mean,
There is a good bit to be
I
excited
know
about,
you
but
don't
I
like
think
Baker. I know you're not a Baker guy.
Baker's fine. Like he you talk about a guy that really does just like have balls and able to push the ball downfield and not afraid of stuff like and that does carry him a good bit at times where it's like lacking of general maybe arm talent as some of the best quarterbacks in the league, but just the willingness to just throw it, it turns out in his favor, honestly, more than it doesn't, I have to say. Um, their receiver room is interesting. There's been some, obviously Chris Godwin's going to be out to start the year. We'll see how he looks when he gets back. Jalen
I
McMillan, who
think
had
the
a really
worst.
nice
I
year,
think the
is
worst
like
kept
out for the
secret right
season.
now in fantasy football is you need to draft Igbuka.
Yeah, Emeka Egbuka might be really, really good for Tampa this year. I think that like he's gonna just be the number 2 receiver next to Evans. And we know like Mike Evans last year, he he had 1,004 yards. He had his make a wish
They Mickey
a
Mouse
thousand
to get
yards. They
that
Mickey
1,000 yards
Moused
because
it.
he was banged up last year. He's
He
getting
was
up there
banged
in
up.
age.
And you look at like 6 for 61 or sorry, 5 for 61 and 2 scores, 3 for 42, 2 for 17. And then he broke out 8 for 94 against the Eagles, shocker. 5 for 62, 2 scores, 2 for 34, 1 for 25, and then he got hurt. 1 for 25, a touchdown. He got injured on that play against Baltimore. 5 for 68, and then he got back from he got back from injury against the Giants, and they were like, "All right, we got to start pushing him to get to 1,000." It was 5 for 68, 8 for 118, 4 for 69, 9 for 159. He's got ability. He's not like totally washed, but I think the longer the days of you're I don't think you're going to be super successful targeting him like 15 times a game, and that's what they were doing towards the end of the stretch, towards the end of the season. He had a lot of double-digit target seasons towards the end, a lot of 8, 9 target games, and it's not a bad thing, but I think that if Chris Godwin were to have been healthy all year, you don't see Mike Evans have some of those blow-up games because Godwin was incredible before he got hurt. He was what, number 1 fantasy receiver those first few weeks of the year? Like, he was really cooking, and then obviously it all went downhill after that. So, Egbuka, I think, is gonna have a huge year next to Evans, who's still gonna draw attention, but I just don't think as an offense, it's best to go through him as much. No,
The Ohio
McMillan's gonna hurt
State
a lot.
Ohio State just produced. I mean, you talk about college football guys that produce in the NFL. Always Penn State linebackers, Miami Hurricane running backs. Now it's Ohio State wide receivers. Them and LSU.
And like LSU, yeah.
And yeah,
Um,
LSU. Yeah.
but you look at, like, the receivers are not they're good, but, the injuries hurt a lot. Like, we don't know what Godwin's gonna be. McMillan, it really does look pretty dire.
It looks
And
like,
then
a neck injury. They said like week 10 or 11 as a target date, but man, like, I don't know.
Yeah, like Tristan Wirfs, he's on the pup list, right? Or at least he's going to be out for a few weeks to start the season. So that's going to be tough for
It
them to
does feel like that
manage.
team's like always injured, and you're like, wow, this team was like not like always injured. Like they could be like
They're
a
banged up.
real.
They're banged up again. And you look at
Let me
Bucky
ask you
Irvin.
this, Michael. Like, what's the difference between Todd Bowles and McDermott? Like realistically,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
two
I
former
guess.
Andy Reid assistants.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a huge difference.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no difference. Or like
Yeah,
John Harbaugh.
sure. Um, Tampa, if things go right, health concerns, and they're able to manage losing Liam Cohen, they'll probably win this division. Maybe be good enough to win a playoff game, but that's a pretty big if. It'll be interesting to see how
Mhm.
they manage with the new OC in relief. So,
Right. All
all
right.
right,
Ready for
we have
baseball?
one division left, NFC East. That'll be next week as we get ready to start previewing. We'll also be previewing the
Eagle
Thursday and
Cowboy game.
Eagle Cowboy and Chief Charger game, Thursday and Friday of that week, and then that weekend we will be talking about actual week one, full week one. Okay, on to baseball. So we alluded to this earlier in the show, but Phillies were hit with some pretty hard news about a week ago at this point. Zach Wheeler, blood clot in the upper right extremity, upper right shoulder. Feels like it's like right here. Um, that has since been removed surgically, and he's at home resting. Rob Thompson said he'll probably have an update this week, just some general updates. Most doctors, most medical people in the sports world, most general medical people feel they would be pretty surprised if he was able to pitch again this season. Feels very, very unlikely that he's going to be able to throw again this season. Um, it happening this late in the year, it's like every week of rest is another week of rehab for him. And, he's going to need at least a month of rest. And if you go from a month from last week, that puts you at the end of September. And if he needs another 4 weeks of recovery, you're looking at the middle of October. The Phillies would have to go on a World Series run in order for it to maybe even be a possibility to see Wheeler
Maybe have a
pitch again
couple
this
rainouts.
year.
Maybe have like the
Yeah,
hit from
you'd have to
2008.
yeah, you'd have to have some delays. And like, listen, maybe and if he can come back and he just isn't ramped up to start, but he could come out of the bullpen. Oh, listen, man, getting 6 or 7 innings out of Sanchez, one out of Wheeler, one out of Duran, like you feel pretty confident anytime you
Little
probably
mad bum
go
action
with
out of
that.
Zach Wheeler.
Exactly. Maybe giving him 1 to 2 inning bullpen appearances a couple times in a series, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
be cooking. But that seems even optimistic. It all feels pretty unlikely.
Yeah,
But
man. I mean, you see Alex Cole on Twitter hashtag win it for Wheeler.
yeah,
You
the win
know,
it for Zach. Whenever it feels
win
like
it for Wheeler.
burn the boats at WIP is getting big too. Like it just feels like this team hasn't had a moment to galvanize them in some time now. Even when Reese got hurt, it was in spring training, so it was sort of like not that it didn't matter because obviously it did, but it didn't. I don't think it hit the same sort of way, especially now 3 years into this being or 4 years now being good again, making the playoffs regularly. I think it clicked in their minds of like, damn, Zach getting hurt, we can't just roll over and die because we know all of our primes are like slowly coming to an end. Bryce, Trey, JT, even Castellanos. None of those guys are getting any younger. All those guys are in their late prime or ending their prime. Schwarber as well. They all seem to have raised their level of play this past week. They all had, I mean, they had truly, it was probably the best regular season series in the history of the franchise against Seattle this week.
Oh
They had,
yes.
John, they had 48 hits and then the most strikeouts. in a series in the franchise's history. The starters alone had like what 40 strikeouts between the three.
Yeah, so the stat that came out of here, obviously, well, the big one, the one that stood out to me the most was Philly starters. Each had so Luzardo, Ranger, and
Sanchez.
Sanchez each had 10 plus Ks. And that's never happened. Like the last time that happened was before 1893, potentially, like when counting stats wasn't as important as it was,
Yeah,
I guess since the beginning of 1893, which is a mind-boggling number. So we're going to say that's the most that's the
it's
most
probably the best series the Phillies have ever played ever.
right.
Like
I would
that's it.
agree.
And context of it all too adds to it. Coming off the Wheeler news, the Mariners are a good team, one of the best teams in the league, best teams in the American League. You just dominated them. You really did. Even though they made the one game close with some come from behind sort of stuff, it was still dominant. Like
Yeah, your boy J
they,
Rod had that a crazy home run with that ball looked like it was going to be a 58.5 foot breaking ball.
yeah. So the Phillies really took care of business against Seattle in a dominating fashion. It was really good reason to be fired up for sure. Last night, tough loss is what it is. Doesn't really matter, honestly, if I have to really put too much on it. There's just a couple I want to highlight the stars. Um, Christopher Sanchez has been out of his mind. Looks like he's even upped his level. All the pitchers, we'll start with the pitchers. They all upped their level this week. Nola is the big one today because Nola came back and it was looking great, and it all
I do
collapsed
want
and
to
it
talk
all
about
felt too
Nolan and
familiar.
Alec Boehm specifically. Yes.
But the other starters, they all raised their level of play. Luzardo gave up the early home run on a pitch that was impossible to hit out, dominated otherwise. Ranger looked about as good as he's looked in the last like couple years. His velocity was back up. Strikeouts were crazy. Not getting into any trouble. It was just a classic dominant Ranger performance that was really encouraging. I think everyone was starting to worry a little bit if he was hitting a wall and wasn't going to be able to break through it. And Sanchez was his typical dominant self again. So that was awesome to see. Those three guys really raised their level of play. Taijuan Walker, even again last night, gives up a 3-run home run in the first inning and then battles and just pitches for a five starter, has continued to pitch really, really well. I just have to keep giving him credit. Um, the bullpen has largely been great since like they got Duran and even the Wheeler injury too. And then I got to give credit to the veterans, the veteran bats that I think are taking the responsibility of like, listen, Wheeler's down. We need to do everything we can. We can't let this opportunity waste. This is too good of a team to let an injury derail the entire thing. And Bryce, Schwarber, and Trey have been out of their minds the last few weeks at this point. And and how dare I? And JT Realmuto as well has been incredible. Um, Having one of the best offensive seasons of his career at this point, like since June or whatever the stat is. It's really remarkable. Like he started hitting 300 since June, but it was all singles, and now all of a sudden he's unleashed the power, and all of his home runs are like nukes, dude. He's hitting tanks into left field. He's roasting doubles. He's just smacking the ball all over the place, hitting it really hard. I was very I have to say I was very down. I was very, very down after the Wheeler news. I couldn't talk myself into it. I was like, I know I'll get there, but I can't do it right now. This is so depressing. And that Mariners series really fired me up to be like, you know what? F this, dude. They're still so, so good. No one wants to see Sanchez. No one wants to see Schwarber. No one wants to see Harper. No one really wants to see Turner either, for that matter. No one wants to see Duran. They're, despite the fact that Wheeler is down, I still think they are a top team in the league, and still, I think
Well, look at the
one of the
Dodgers and
more
all the
complete.
injuries they had to deal with last year. They still won the World Series pretty handedly.
Yeah, and looking at the teams in the playoffs, I still think the Phillies or the Padres are like the two most complete teams in the entire postseason picture at the moment. I really do. Um, even without Wheeler, I still feel that way about the Phillies. There is not going to be a pitcher that they face in the playoffs that is as good as Christopher Sanchez is, and that has to just give you
That is
confidence.
wild that Sanchez is going to be the best starting pitcher in the playoffs, and he
In the
wasn't
NL
even an
by like a
all-star.
wide margin, like by a lot. No one's going to be close.
Like the
Um,
Mets, no one on the Brewers, no one on the Cubs, no one on the
and no
Dodgers,
one on the
no one on
Dodgers,
the
no one on the
Padres.
Padres. It's yeah, man, it's no one. And then the AL, it's what like Scooble if he gets there, Crochet if he gets there. But other than that, no one on the Astros, no one on the none
So
of them. So you
I
want to
want
talk
to talk.
about Nola and
Well, can I?
Bowman?
Yeah, can I? I kind of want to talk about. So my take. I don't know if I said this last week or not because I'll be honest. Last weekend was a not good for the brain cells, shall we say?
Sure,
It's not
sure,
very good for my brain cells. Listen, man, I've been more bullish on Alec Boehm recently. I said when he came back, I'm like, listen, him and Knowles, they need to show up for the playoffs. They can't like dog it if they
no,
expect the Phillies to win.
right,
Alec Boehm, his first game back, man, terrorized the Nationals. Big reason
yeah,
why when Knowles got lit up, he's a big reason why they won that game, right?
yep,
You know, he can't be like throwing his bat, being pouty, being a guaranteed out in the lineup like the Diamondbacks and the Mets were like basically counting on to beat the Phillies. We're
right,
like, listen, we just limit what Schwarber, Harper, and Turner can do. We know we can get him out.
hmm,
It's like
yeah,
back before the DH, the pitcher spot was always like a guaranteed out. Well, when you're 5 hole, you can't expect a guaranteed out, man. Like that's not feasible. I think Bo might ball. He seems different. He does seem more like low key. He seems more locked in. I think he knows like this is like his last shot, really, at maybe not just being with this team, but being like an every like a considered a solid player in MLB and Major League Baseball. His defense has gotten a lot better. He's
hmm,
clearly working at it. He's not dogging it. The concern is Aaron Nola because it does feel like when he's cruising, it's great. Whenever it's like he gets squeezed, or if he gives up a cheese bag single where we're like, Phillies negative OAA,
right.
oh, here we go. We should have been an out, but we didn't get it, blah, 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 like whatever. Then he just mentally he just collapses.
Yeah, I'm gonna need Nola today to be great because it last week it wasn't even like it usually has been. Like earlier in the year, it was you cruise for a couple innings, the little stuff starts to happen, and then the home run just is the kill shot, and all of a sudden the home run takes it from a 2-3 run inning to like a 5-6 run inning, and that didn't even come against the Nationals. It was just a bunch of weakly hit balls, bunch of little singles, a couple couple hard hit ones, but nothing that damaging. Point is, I didn't think he made awful pitches, and like I know that's what no one wants to hear when like
I
he gives
agree
up
with you. He
6
didn't make
runs in an
awful
inning.
pitches, but man, when you get in the playoffs, like,
Yeah,
dude,
you can't afford that. It doesn't matter. You just got to get outs. And I I'm still confident because I did think this stuff looked better. It really was unfortunate he couldn't get out of the third inning. Um, today I'm gonna hold a lot of water on today. He really just needs to be good today for me to feel confident in him moving forward for the postseason and like for the rest of the contract too. Like those concerns really came up during the year, and him being on the IL for as long as he was, I think it was it's an opportunity for him to really give a fresh taste in everyone's mouth about how we feel about him. And if he's going to continue to just do what he was doing before he got put on there, it's unfortunate that we're just going to be
yeah,
sit
because
here stuck
I
with
mean,
like Patrick Corbin.
I mean, Michael, I think a lot of it is mental. Like, I mean, I don't even
Yeah,
see physical anymore because, dude, he was cooking. Like his fastball had a ton of movement on it. Wasn't a flat 91, 92. It was cutting in. it was running inside on right-handed hitters. His changeup, one of the best in the business, right? And then
It's
his curveball had a lot of bite to it. It looked good. It looked like vintage
John, in the
Aaron
first 2
Nola.
innings, it was like, "Oh my god, he's back, thank God," and then
Yes,
it just so
yes.
suddenly collapsed. Like, I need him to show me that he's still got it for
Is he being
outings
caught?
because
Is Marchand catching him today, or is it
it's gonna be
JT?
JT today.
I
It's
trust him being caught by JT than
I
Rafael
mean,
versus.
I just don't think at that point it doesn't make a difference, I
Who's going
feel
to
like
catch
at
him
the
in the
moment.
postseason, Michael? They're not going to sit JT for
No, I get it. It's
Marchand.
just like he just needs to pitch better. He just needs to pitch well because it won't matter. You could have, Pudge back there. It won't matter if he's gonna be struggling. Like, he just needs to prove to me that you're not gonna become like Patrick Corbin. Like, I need that reassurance that he's not gonna just take the
Patrick
ball every
Corbin.
fit.
Ooh, yeah,
John, I mean, what did you think he
yeah.
was in the beginning of the year? Like, I love him. You know how much I defend him, and he just
I
needs to
defend him
show
too.
me
I mean, I'm
that
not a
he's not. No, I know that he's just not gonna take the ball every fit day and suck.
dude. It is
Like,
like it would be like a legacy damaging.
it totally would.
It
It
would
would it
just
would
nuke his legacy
Yeah, it would.
if
He
he just
really,
goes out
really
there and gets
would.
shelled.
And it's a shame
And
because, like,
dude, like Harp is with like guys like Bryce Harper will express his opinion. He might go to like Dave and just be like, dude, get this effing
I mean, maybe, I
loser
don't
off
know.
our team. He's
I
a
don't know.
buzzkill.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm really hoping today's a good one from Aaron. And listen, I gotta feel a little bit confident. You're back at home. He likes being at home. It's gonna be a nice, beautiful Saturday evening. Just gotta go out there and pitch, man. Just gotta do your thing.
What do
There
you?
is one more guy I wanna
I want to.
highlight,
Can I
I
just
guess.
bring up something about JT? Crazy JT
Oh,
stat.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
So Yade Molina, who like is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer because he's got 9,000 Gold Gloves, and
Right.
everyone like glazed him for like the last since he came into MLB. He only has three uh, more wins above replacement than JT.
Yeah, man. I mean, the bat of Yachty was just pretty bad for a decent bit there, which, like, as a catcher, would the defense is always going to be a little more important. But yeah, no, it's JT's going to open up some interesting conversations in a handful of years. But I do want to highlight two more things I want to talk about regarding the Phillies. The first thing is Bryson Stott. Now, I know that I'm talking about him now. His shelf life on this hot streak is like 10 more days. So sorry in advance that in like 2 weeks when he's in the gutters again. But
Wow,
I'm like tongue in cheek, but like half serious. I feel like every time I finally start putting myself in a place where
he
I'm
turns
happy
the
with
corner.
Bryson, it really is like every time I'm like, man, I'm just loving the way Bryson's playing. It just always goes to shit every single time without fail. Um, but he's been playing really well, man. He really has. The defense struggled like early in the season, weirdly, but it's been pretty normal, which in his case is like very, very good. Base running is always great. Offensively, he's hitting the ball a lot harder since the All-Star break and has been like on a ridiculous tear in August. And listen, I don't need him to have a 950 OPS. Like I don't need him to be that guy. I just need him to be competent at the plate and
I
like
need him to be Cesar Hernandez. I don't need him to be
sure.
Mickey Morandini. You probably don't know who that
No,
is.
well, I mean, I know who Mickey Morantini is,
Yeah.
but like you don't need to be Ketel Marte, you need to be like Bryce
Well,
Terang.
Michael,
Like that's
if we're gonna trade for Ketel Marte in the offseason, we probably need
well, I
Bryce
mean, yeah, then
right
it
back
doesn't
a little
matter at
bit.
all. But if I don't need him to be smacking the ball over the field, I just need him to not be an automatic out. I need him to like I'll take less of like the crazy 9 pitch at bats that end in and out if it means like he's gonna swing at the first pitch a little more and just get some more hits.
You mean like
I don't
crush it into the gap and get a double?
sure, or even pitches that are a little off the plate in a 1-0 count, if you can just flare them into left field consistently for a base hit, I'll take that because you play elite defense and you're a really good base runner. It's like, I don't mind if your bat isn't anything super special if the other
That
stuff
reminds
follows
me of.
because that's great.
I think I sent you a meme about Lindor, where someone did a meme. It was like meet defense man, and then
Yeah.
some guy in a
Yeah,
Mets
if
hat's like
Stott is
crying, where he's
that.
like, "Oh my god, look at that diving play! We're down 9-0. Can we
Yeah.
get? We need a hit."
No, listen, if Stott can be that, that's great. Like, and what he's giving you is awesome, and it's going to raise his season long numbers. Like his OPS is up over 700 now, which feels impossible. I felt like that was out of the equation for this season. And listen, it's up there on such a hot streak; it could obviously dip back down, but I didn't think I'd see it start with the 7 the rest of this year. And the fact that it is now is pretty impressive. I got to give him credit. So they made a pretty clear swing stance adjustment with him. His hands are very close to his body. His hands are lower, and I think just quieting that stance and quieting that swing motion down is resulting in more consistent squared up contact. And if that's going to be the case, then by all means, that's going to be the case, and that's going to be it's a very valuable player to have if he's going to be just solid with the bat as opposed to like putrid and borderline unplayable. Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about regarding the team is the outfield. Nick Castellanos, the last couple games, is actually starting to get some hits again, which is pretty normal. All of a sudden, his like garbage can play like does sort of snap out of it into like okay, he's like solid again. I don't really know how it happens. I don't think he knows how it happens. I don't think anybody knows how it happens. It just sort of happens. But Brandon Marsh has been really, really good for essentially most of the season at this point. He's having his best season as a Philly this year. You know, obviously he had a hitless month, but after the hitless month, he's been really, really good. The defense has gotten a lot better as
Really
well.
shows you how bad a hitless month can screw your season long
No,
stats.
it really is crazy. 1 month can tank an entire season. Absolutely. Um, Max Kepler has earned his way to deserving a spot on this roster for the rest of the year and likely into the playoffs. The way that
Michael, that's a hot take. I agree with that because, like, when you watch Kepler, see, this is where the Kepler, this is like the Max Kepler experience when he's like bad. He'll have like, his first at bat, he'll hit a rocket that just dies out by the warning track, and you're like, that was like
typical.
10 feet more to the left. That's off the wall. That's a double. And then you have like two men on with one out, and you're like, all right, he hit a rocket the last at bat. Maybe you'll hit like,
And he
maybe,
hits into the double play.
and then he hits a double play, and then you're just like, oh
And
my
then he
god.
hits his third at bat. He hits a hard hit like single, and it's like
It's
that's the
like,
Max
oh, we're
Kepler
back.
experience.
It is like
No,
a
for
roller
sure, for
coaster.
sure. I mean, they're running 4 outfielders, and Thompson said, like, "Listen, I'm just gonna kinda keep running it until 3 of them start, like, separating themselves from the 4th guy," you know? And I think it's working. It's sorta like that you're breeding competition a little bit. Every guy's pushing each other to be good and want to hit well, and Rob Thompson seems to be pushing kind of all the right buttons. Castellanos gets the day off again, and Kepler hits a home run and a double, and it's like, dude, like that's awesome stuff. Another multi-hit game. Um, Harrison Bader has really struggled offensively, which who could have seen that coming, obviously, but defensively has been really, really good. And you'll still take the threat of a home run that Bader provides, but
Well,
it's
the
not a
whole
big
point of
threat.
Bader is that he's like in the postseason. That's kind of his.
I mean, the whole point of Bader was like, we're gonna replace Rojas with a guy that's just about as good defensively and is a little bit more threatening with the bat. And that's all it was.
What do you
Like
think
if
of
he's
Rojas changing his stance and doing better in AAA? Are we gonna?
I hope
I'm ready to get
I
hurt again.
I fear he might just be like a 4A player where the defense will
That's what
carry,
I'm kind of thinking. Like honestly, like
but the bat might be
objectively,
4A.
it does feel like though there's just some guys, Michael, that just need regular playing time. Like I think Edmundo, what makes him so valuable is that he doesn't need consistent at bats to like be able
No,
to
and it
produce.
works the other way. He gets consistent at bats, he's gonna start playing worse. Like,
Like
he's one of those guys that
he's a great bench player.
he's an incredible utility infielder, absolutely. Rojas, I don't know, man. Like, he every time he goes down to AAA, he starts to hit a lot better, and then he comes up here, and it's just more the same. So I don't think they're in any rush to bring him up. I think that's more of a next year problem or an injury happens problem. Um, but like Bader essentially is just going to be Rojas level defense with the idea of a better bat, I guess, until like proven otherwise. Like the capability of hitting a mistake as a home run, where the best case scenario for a mistake to Rojas would be like a hard hit single, maybe a double. So you'll take that, and the way that Marsh is playing really really well is helping carry that too. So it'll be interesting to see how it manages itself throughout September and into the playoffs. But I think the outfield's in a pretty solid spot right now. The way that the rotation sort of is, feels like Castellanos gets an off day against a right-handed pitcher like once or twice a week, and you go with a Bader, Kepler, um, Marsh outfield, and you know versus a righty, you want Castellanos in there, and you put Bader on the bench and Kepler in left, and then versus the lefty, you have Castellanos in there with Bader and Weston Wilson. So like he's cooking. He's got a pretty decent method. I think he's got a good. I think Rob's got a really good feel right now for when he wants to have Castellanos on the bench versus having Kepler in there. So yeah, it's working, man. The
So
offense is hitting.
so you mentioned Stott, and you're like, oh, he's gonna suck in 10 days. I mean, so you don't put any stock into Bryson Stott's changing his hands or his stance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's credit to where it's due, but I he's just not going to have a 950 OPS the rest of the year, and like we've seen him have good months before. Like I don't know, we've seen him have like an 8 something OPS month, and we're like,
Hey,
oh, maybe
Bryson
Stott's
Stott,
finally
since his
figured it
son
out.
was
Like
born on July 23rd,
what is it? I'm sure it's great numbers. Yeah, that's when the turnaround started to happen.
347, 16 runs scored, 3 home runs, 15 ribbies, 7 stolen bases, 10 walks, 419 on base percentage, 1019 OPS.
I mean, we can
It
even
does.
go
It
back
does.
to
Does it hurt? Does it help PCA's? Does it help PCA's MVP case now that Bryson Stott is playing better? Because remember, he had a lower on base percentage than Bryson Stott.
yeah, I guess it does, man. But you look at Baseball Reference isn't loading for me. That's very frustrating.
Rob Thompson on Joan Duran's blown save. Mariano had 80 of them, so it's going to happen every once in a while. That's the perfect answer to Joan Duran blowing that save last night, which is kind of a Fugazi blown save. Like we've seen the Jordan Romano blown saves, and they're like legitimate, like 3 Mile Island like meltdowns.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, finally, Stott's thing loaded. And we've seen Stott have good months. Like 2023, we want to go back. He had an 897 OPS July and an 825 OPS August, and we were all super excited. And then he has a 557 OPS in September and had a terrible postseason in 2023. In 2024, last season, he had a 776 OPS in May, which like isn't amazing, but if he could do that for a whole year, we'd be like, you know what? That's pretty solid, man. Follows it up 627 OPS, 660, 652, 624 to finish the season. So we know he has good months, and we're looking at him now and had an 810 OPS in April and March and April, 561 OPS in May, 549 OPS in June, 637 OPS in July. Like future numbers, dude. He hit 194 in the month of July. And like this month he's gotten 1,000 OPS through 19 games. So like that's pretty remarkable. we know he has good months. We know he's capable of it. It's just a matter of can he keep it through and be a consistent bat for us, especially, come playoff time, to not just be virtually an automatic out, because him down there in the 9 hole being able to turn the lineup over and be threatening is extremely, extremely valuable. But yeah, I think the lineup's in a good place too. I think Castellanos is probably going to stay down at 7th the rest of the year, the days that JT's in there. In the
He
playoffs,
does
I think
thrive
JT.
when he's lower in the lineup. I feel like where Castellanos
Well,
really.
like you look at 2023 when he was awful in 2023. I think people forget how bad he was after the All-Star break. And it was like the worst hitter we had ever seen again. And then Topper dropped him down to 7th, and that's when he had, the crazy playoff run. He was hitting 7th. I think people forget that he was batting 7th, hitting all those home runs, in
Yes.
2023. So, um, cooking a little bit of that up. I think JT has very rightly earned the cleanup spot behind Bryce. He's been excellent protection. Bowman there to lengthen the lineup with Marsh hitting 6th. I think it's a good spot for him. Having either Bader or Kepler 8th and Stott 9th. It's a good lineup, man. And Bowman lengthens it a lot. They just got to do it, man. They just have to do it.
I
They
mean,
just
this is kind of like the last hurrah. This is the last shot
it feels like it
with
with
this
with
core.
this core of a core. Yeah, it does. And listen, the odds don't lie. The World Series odds are always going to have the Dodgers as like extreme heavy favorites because it is what it is. But it's no, it's not an accident that you look at World Series odds on sports books and what you're getting is um, the Phillies in second. I guess the Brewers have been playing well enough to earn their right to tie, but like the Phillies at second or third best World Series odds is not it's not an accident, even with the injury to Zach Wheeler. So we will be seeing how the rest of the year progresses, but yeah, that's our show, everybody.
That's our show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's really nice out. We got college football coming on in less than 40 minutes.
Hmm.
Uh, Iowa State and Kansas State. Next week, college football is fully back. Falls upon us.
We're
Take
here.
care, everybody.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.